This is the brief on AI Decoded. Think of this weekly show as your very own universal translator, taking all that intimidating tech speak and turning it into practical, everyday language for folks without a technical background. First, we need to look at who this is actually for, because their core mission is to make artificial intelligence finally click for non-technical users. Since we aren't all programmers, the show acts as a strict filter for information, which really makes you wonder, if AI systems are so profoundly complex, how accessible can they genuinely be for an absolute beginner? Well, second, we see how the two hosts answer that by aggressively filtering the noise, separating what's actually useful.
So if you are spending 5 hours a week making these short-form videos and getting absolute zero actual clients from it, I mean, you aren't bad at your profession. You are just kind of playing the wrong digital game.
Right, which is exactly what we see happening, all the time.
Yeah, and today we are doing a deep dive into this tactical guide called Content Creation 101. Because the goal here is to extract this ultimate shortcut, to building a sustainable online presence without just completely burning out.
Oh, absolutely. Because right now, the modern independent professional is trapped in this really bizarre paradox.
Yeah, you could be an absolute master of your craft, right? Like a brilliant strategic consultant or a personal trainer who genuinely transforms lives, or maybe a freelance designer with an incredible eye.
But the moment you open your phone to market your business, it just feels like you are trying to fill a leaky bucket with a thimble.
Exactly. You just feel completely overwhelmed by this pressure that you have to be everywhere all the time or else you're just invisible.
And it's a recipe for, accelerated professional burnout. And the real danger is that you end up confusing sheer digital noise with actual business development.
Oh, I like that. Confusing noise with development.
Right, because producing content across 5 different channels gives you this illusion of productivity, but mechanically, it is often just spinning your wheels without generating any forward traction at all.
Which brings us to the core text today. Whether you're, a financial advisor looking for new clients or a photographer trying to book weddings, this deep dive is designed to fundamentally reframe how you view your social media strategy.
We really need to dismantle the systems that are just wasting your time.
Okay, let's unpack this. Starting with the absolute biggest mistake professionals make before they even, type a single word.
Yeah, the fatal error happens in the very first question a professional asks themselves when they decide to take social media seriously. Almost universally, they look at the landscape and ask, what platforms should I be on?
Which, seems entirely logical to anyone starting out.
Sure, it does.
You look around, you see the massive user base on Instagram, the viral nature of TikTok, the corporate networking on LinkedIn, the community pages on Facebook. And you just assume the baseline requirement for a legitimate business is to stake a claim on all of them.
But framing it as, what platform should I be on, is an output-focused question. And that leads straight into what the source text calls the everywhere trap.
The everywhere trap.
Right. When you attempt to maintain a presence across 5 different platforms simultaneously, unless you have a fully staffed marketing department, which most don't, the mechanical result is that your content quality just plummets.
You spread yourself incredibly thin.
Exactly. And from an algorithmic standpoint, platforms actively punish accounts that post sporadically or with really low engagement. So you end up with a profile on every channel, but none of them are actually being served to potential clients.
It's exactly like trying to maintain 5 mediocre, superficial friendships instead of 2 really deep, meaningful ones.
That is a perfect analogy, yeah.
A professional who posts, just say, 3 times a week on 2 platforms with genuine quality will actually build an audience that trusts them. The one posting occasionally on 5 is just, shouting into a void.
So the golden rule established right at the beginning of this guide is to start with exactly 2 platforms. They literally call it the rule of 2.
Just 2.
Just 2. You pick 2, you build deep roots there, and you do not even consider adding a third until you have a content system that runs automatically without burning you out.
But that kind of begs the question for the listener, right? How do they mathematically narrow it down to just 2? I mean, if they aren't just throwing darts at a board and guessing, what's the underlying logic for choosing?
Well, the selection process requires a completely different framing. Instead of asking what platform you should be on, you must ask an input-focused question.
Okay, which is?
Where do my ideal clients already self-select to spend their time, and what format of content do they naturally consume there? What's fascinating here is that your professional context actually dictates your starting line better than any generic marketing trend ever could.
So it's really about the client's existing behavioral geography. You just go where the gathering is already happening.
Exactly that. If you are a personal trainer working specifically with clients in their late 30s and 40s, the data reliably shows those demographics are actively using Instagram and Facebook to follow health and lifestyle content.
Makes sense.
But if you're a B2B business consultant targeting corporate executives, the attention you need is heavily concentrated on LinkedIn.
Right. But that handles the audience location. What happens if a listener finds out their audience is heavily indexed on, like, a video platform, but they absolutely loathe being on camera?
Oh, that brings us to the crucial second variable, which is creator sustainability.
Right, because if you hate it, you won't do it.
You have to be brutally honest about the format you can sustain. If you force yourself into a medium you hate, the system will break. Like, if you hate recording video, a video-first strategy is a setup for abandonment. You will literally quit by month 2.
Yeah, that makes total sense.
However, if you naturally enjoy structuring arguments and writing detailed analyses, a text-heavy platform is going to feel frictionless. You must find the intersection between where the audience lives and the medium where your execution feels the least like a chore.
And I imagine looking at the broader market plays a role here too, right? Not to, like, mimic your competitors, but to look at where the most successful voices in your specific niche are actually gaining traction. It provides verified behavioral data on what your shared audience actually wants.
That is the final confirmation metric, yes. Once you map those 3 variables, audience location, format preference, and verified market traction, your 2 platforms will become incredibly obvious.
All right, so the listener has narrowed the universe down to 2 platforms. But knowing the name of the app isn't enough, is it? We need to break down the distinct laws of physics governing each one. Let's start with Instagram.
Sure, Instagram operates fundamentally as a visual and aesthetic hub. The dominant audience demographic spans roughly 25 to 45 years old. But to succeed there, you really must understand the distinct internal mechanisms of the app.
Right, because it's not just one feed anymore.
Exactly. Your static feed posts and your multi-image carousels, those function as your permanent portfolio. They build deep credibility. But Reels, the short-form vertical videos, those currently offer the highest organic reach.
Meaning Reels are the mechanism the algorithm uses to push your content into the feeds of strangers who don't already follow you.
Yes, Reels are for discovery, the feed is for credibility, and stories, the vanishing daily updates, those are the low-stakes mechanism for building parasocial relationships with the people who have already opted in to follow you.
Okay, so Instagram makes a lot of sense for visual or consumer-facing services. But what about Facebook? I kind of want to challenge this one because a lot of professionals listening might have a lingering bias that Facebook is completely dead for modern business. Like, basically just a ghost town of outdated memes.
Yeah, that is a really pervasive myth.
Yeah.
And the source text explicitly warns that ignoring Facebook can be a fatal mistake for specific local businesses.
Wait, really? A fatal mistake?
Absolutely. While the demographic undeniably skews older dominantly, 35 to 65, it remains the most utilized social network on the planet in absolute volume. If you are a listener selling a service to homeowners, retirees, or established parents, that is exactly where their attention is pooled.
Okay, wow. So how does the distribution mechanism there differ from Instagram then?
Well, Facebook's algorithmic superpower is community trust. It highly prioritizes content shared within local neighborhood groups or specific interest-based communities. Furthermore, the platform grants massive algorithmic priority to native live video.
Like Facebook Live?
Yes. When we say algorithmic priority, we mean the system actively sends push notifications to followers when you go live. That's a feature almost no other format receives.
Oh, right. Because it actually buzzes your phone.
Exactly. A real estate agent doing a live weekly market update from their car, or like a contractor walking through a live renovation site, will trigger distribution mechanisms that standard posts simply cannot access.
That completely reframes Facebook from a generic feed to a hyper-local broadcasting tool.
Oh,
I love that.
yeah.
Now let's pivot to LinkedIn because this one always feels a bit, I don't know, culturally rigid to me.
Yeah, LinkedIn occupies a really distinct psychological space. It is the only major platform built explicitly around a professional context. When a user opens LinkedIn, their brain transitions into professional mode.
Professional mode.
Right. They're mentally primed to think about their industry, their career trajectory, and their business challenges.
So they are actually receptive to substantive analytical content rather than just scrolling to escape or be entertained like on other apps.
Precisely. B2B service providers dramatically underutilize it because they fundamentally misunderstand the culture.
No, so.
The trap on LinkedIn is posting polished, generic corporate brochures. The algorithm and, honestly, the users punish corporate speak. The mechanism that drives engagement on LinkedIn is what the guide calls public professional journaling.
Public professional journaling.
Yes, it is honest, specific, and analytical writing about the actual friction points in your industry.
I really love that framing. A public professional journal. Now, I want to tackle the elephant in the room, which is TikTok, because a lot of professionals listening still have a pretty big mental block here.
Oh, sure. They view it purely as a Gen Z entertainment app.
Yeah, certainly not a place to sell serious consulting or high-end services. How does the guide justify spending time there?
The guide dismantles that bias by explaining the underlying mathematical model of the app. TikTok does not use a social graph like early Facebook did.
Okay, break down the difference between those two graphs for us, because that feels important.
Right. Early Facebook served you content based on who your friends were. That's a social graph. It assumes that because you and I are friends, you naturally want to see what I post.
Even if it's boring.
Exactly. But TikTok operates entirely on an interest graph. It assumes absolutely nothing about your real-world relationships. Instead, it analyzes micro-behaviors.
Like how long you watch something.
Yes. It measures how many milliseconds you hover over a video about freelance tax strategy versus, say, a video about cooking. It builds a hyper-specific map of your brain's interests.
So if a listener posts an incredibly niche, insightful video about overcoming a very specific supply chain issue, the algorithm actually hunts down users whose micro-behaviors show they care about supply chains.
That is the exact mechanism. You could literally have 0 followers, and your first video could reach 5,000 highly targeted strangers on day 1 just by being relevant.
Wow.
Yeah, that kind of pure, merit-based organic acquisition is practically non-existent on the legacy platforms.
Okay, so let's say the listener has mapped their audience, picked their 2 platforms, and they understand the, cultural physics of the rooms they are walking into. But eventually, they are going to hit the 6-month wall, right?
Oh, the inevitable 6-month wall.
Yeah, the initial burst of inspiration fades, creative exhaustion sets in, and they have to figure out how to generate 3 to 4 high-quality ideas every single week. How does the guide solve the whole content treadmill problem?
This is where artificial intelligence becomes mandatory, but specifically not in the way most people are using it.
Right, because most people treat AI like a vending machine for writing. They drop in a basic prompt and get back this generic robotic-sounding garbage that everyone instantly scrolls past.
And mechanically, that happens because large language models are essentially advanced prediction engines. They are mathematically designed to output the most statistically average next word.
Which is the opposite of what you want for good content.
Exactly. If you ask it to be a writer, it will give you the most average, boring text possible. The critical shift outlined in the source is viewing AI specifically, tools like Claude, not as a writer, but purely as a translation engine.
Here's where it gets really interesting for me.
Yeah.
Claude is essentially your digital sous chef. You have to bring the premium ingredients, right? The raw variants.
Yes, the variance is key.
You provide the actual industry expertise, the contrarian opinions, the specific client struggles you witnessed that week, and then Claude just does the tedious chopping and plating to make it look perfect for the specific digital restaurant you're serving it in.
That division of labor is the absolute key to sustainable creation. You cannot outsource your hard-earned expertise.
Right.
Let's examine the specific prompt structure provided in the text to see the mechanism in action. Imagine a personal trainer in Nashville.
Okay.
If they just open Claude and type, "Write me social media posts for a personal trainer," the LLM outputs average platitudes about, drinking more water.
Which is useless. But if they use it as a translation engine, what does the prompt actually look like?
They inject the raw variants. So the prompt looks like this. I'm a personal trainer in Nashville, working primarily with women in their 40s, recovering from long periods of inactivity.
Super specific.
Right. I want an Instagram carousel post about why the standard fitness advice, just start with 15 minutes a day, actually backfires for most people in this demographic. The tone should be highly validating and practical. Lead with an observation about the guilt they feel.
Oh, wow. You are really forcing the AI inside a very tight box there. You give it the exact target audience, the platform format, the counterintuitive opinion, and the required emotional resonance.
Exactly. And that 5-minute investment in writing a proper brief yields content that sounds exactly like you, speaks directly to a specific pain point, and frankly, would have taken an hour to draft manually.
That's incredible.
Furthermore, Claude is brilliant for overcoming the blank page. You can prompt it with structural frameworks like the educational trust offer ratio and ask it to generate 30 angles on your topic. It pulls you completely out of your own narrow day-to-day biases.
All right, so you have your platforms and you have your AI translated platform native content ready to go. The next mechanical hurdle is discovery. How do you ensure the algorithm indexes the plated meal properly? Let's talk hashtags.
Hashtags are tricky.
Yeah, because the common behavior is to just like dump a dozen broad words at the bottom of a post and hope for the best.
Which provides absolutely zero algorithmic benefit. Hashtags are fundamentally search indexing mechanisms. The guide makes a vital point here. Specificity is survival.
Specificity is survival.
Oh.
Okay, so if a listener uses a massive tag like hashtag business or hashtag fitness,
They render themselves instantly invisible. The mechanism of a hashtag is based on the velocity of new posts. A tag with 2 million posts might see thousands of new entries every single minute. Your post is buried the millisecond you hit publish.
so what's the alternative?
The mathematical strategy you need is called the Goldilocks mix.
Not too broad, not too narrow. How does that mix break down?
You need a structured ratio. First, a small number of tight, hyper-specific hashtags where the total volume is low, but the search intent is incredibly high.
Like what?
Think of a specific Nashville neighborhood combined with postpartum fitness. That's hyper-specific. Second, you want a larger group of mid-range hashtags where there is a meaningful audience but manageable competition.
Okay, got it.
And finally, just 1 or 2 broad category tags. But those broad tags aren't for users to find you. They are strictly to signal to the platform's back-end categorization algorithm what general territory your content occupies.
And I'm guessing a listener can simply feed their niche into their AI translation engine and just ask it to generate these tiered Goldilocks lists for them,
Right?
and then just verify the numbers later.
Exactly. It completely automates the tedious research phase, but we really must move to a distribution mechanic that is even more critical than hashtags, and that's publication timing.
Oh yes, the elusive magic hour. Everyone wants to know exactly when to post.
The baseline rule is logical enough. Early to mid-morning or early evening on weekdays. That roughly maps to when the highest density of working adults are checking their phones, during commutes, lunch breaks, and unwinding periods.
But there is a massive trap here for the busy professional, isn't there?
A catastrophic one, honestly. The real secret to posting time isn't just the clock on the wall, it is the calendar on your desk.
Oh, explain that.
The absolute best time to post is when you will be physically present and holding your phone for the 30 to 60 minutes immediately after it goes live.
So wait, what does this all mean for the listener's workflow? Because a lot of professionals rely heavily on automated scheduling apps to save time.
They do, yeah.
So if they sit down on Sunday, write all their content, and program an app to automatically post to LinkedIn at 9 a.m. on Tuesday, but they are stuck in back-to-back client meetings all Tuesday morning, are they actively killing their own algorithmic reach?
They are severely handicapping it. If we connect this to the bigger picture of platform economics, social networks sell attention to advertisers, right? They want to keep users on the app.
Right.
When you publish a post, the algorithm treats it as a test balloon. It shows it to a tiny fraction of your audience. If someone comments and you immediately reply, the algorithm registers a live, active conversation.
Because it proves people are engaged right now.
Yes. It then aggressively pushes that post to the next tier of users.
But if you just schedule it and ignore it, the test balloon basically just sinks.
Precisely. An unpolished post with live, immediate engagement from the creator will almost always outperform a highly polished post that is published to crickets while the creator is stuck in a meeting. Man. Scheduling tools are incredible for batching your creation process so you don't fall behind. But the ideal mechanical workflow is to write in batches on Sunday, leave the posts in your drafts, and then manually hit publish on Tuesday morning when you have 15 minutes to drink your coffee and actively reply to the first wave of comments.
That makes total sense. You are rewarding the people who engage with you early, which trains the algorithm to reward you in return. It really brings all of this tactical advice, the algorithmic graphs, the AI prompts, the indexing ratios, back to a fundamentally human foundation.
And that is the philosophical core of this entire guide. Beneath all the rule of two strategies and the prompt engineering, there is one underlying law of digital physics that dictates success, and that is consistency.
Consistency.
Social media for an independent professional is a compounding investment. It is not a transactional one.
So a listener shouldn't expect, like, one viral post to suddenly flood their inbox with 100 new clients tomorrow.
No, and honestly, expecting that is exactly what leads right back to burnout. The value of a single post is merely the brick it adds to the larger structural story your profile is building over time.
Right, it's just one piece.
Exactly. Consider the user journey. When a prospective client finally clicks on your page, what do they encounter?
Yeah, what's the vibe?
If they see an agent, a trainer, or a consultant who has published 3 substantive, insightful posts a week for an entire year, they don't just see a marketing feed. They see a steady, reliable authority.
They see the proof of work. That consistency is what turns a passive, skeptical scroller into a warm client who already knows your methodology before they ever even book a discovery call. But, looking at this highly optimized system does leave me with a lingering thought about the role of the creator.
It raises an important question, doesn't it?
It does. Because no professional wants to become a robot just turning the crank on a content machine.
Right. If we zoom out and look at this optimized ecosystem, if an AI is acting as your digital sous chef to translate your raw expertise, and an interest graph algorithm is automatically handling the distribution of that content, and a tiered hashtag strategy is indexing it.
Where do you fit in?
Exactly. Where exactly does your unique, irreplaceable humanity actually live in this digital landscape?
Yeah, where is it?
Well, I would argue that the true unautomatable value of your online presence isn't actually in the polished content sitting on the feed. It lives in the margins.
The margin.
It lives in the specific, empathetic ways you show up in the comments section. It lives in the nuanced conversations you have in the direct messages. It lives in how you actively, genuinely connect with the human beings who took the time to read what you published.
Wow.
You can use systems to automate the translation and distribution of the message, but you can never automate the actual connection.
That is incredibly clarifying. You leverage these tools and systems to handle the heavy lifting, the formatting, and the distribution, precisely so that you have the mental energy left to be a highly present human being when someone finally raises their hand to talk to you. You no longer have to feel like you are pouring water into a leaky bucket. You can just be the expert in the room, having meaningful conversations with the people who actually need your help.
That's exactly it.
Well, we are going to leave it there for today. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive. Now it is time for you to take your raw, hard-earned expertise, define your 2 platforms, and start translating your knowledge for the world. We will catch you on the next one.
This is The Brief on the AI Decoded podcast. AI Decoded is a weekly show that provides actionable tech advice, and today we are looking at their broadcasting footprint and upcoming programming. Keeping up with AI tools feels kind of like navigating this dense, totally unpredictable jungle, which is exactly why finding a reliable guide is absolutely crucial. First, where do you find that guide? Well, listeners can expect a new episode every single week, accessible across all major platforms, including Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and YouTube. So why